The other day, I started work on a video for strange inclusions in the Cars diecast line. Basically, times where Mattel made odd choices regarding who to release, and where and how and when they were released. But the whole time I was working on that video, I kept on thinking instead about cars that we haven't gotten that we probably should have by now. And thus my video on weird inclusions morphed into this one about weird exclusions. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video and to another top 10 list here on the channel, where today I'm going to be going over 10 Cars diecasts that I'm surprised we haven't gotten made yet. Of course, one of the biggest series on my channel when it was first starting off was my Disney Cars Diecast That Should Be Made series, where I would do a slideshow of a bunch of cars that I would like to see made. And since the release of that series, a lot of them have been made, but there are still a lot of cars out there from all three Cars movies and other pieces of Cars media that are missing. There are a lot of cars out there that are strangely absent, and today I'm going to be going over 10 of those. Unlike my usual lists, which I like to put in no particular order, this one is going to be going from my least wanted to most wanted, or least surprised it hasn't been made to most surprised it hasn't been made. Basically, number one is the one that I'm most shocked we haven't gotten yet. Anyway, let's get started with number 10. At spot number 10, we have Blue Gremlin with Headset. Yes, really. Look, I'm sorry, okay? I couldn't make this list without mentioning my boy, Blue Gremlin with Headset. If you've been around my channel for a long time, then you'll know. This is a car that I've wanted to see for a very long time, and a car I've been very surprised that we haven't gotten for a very long time. This blue gremlin with a headset on his side appears during the London chase scene, and even has a voice line where he communicates with, I believe he's talking to Professor Z. I don't quite remember. I'm pretty sure that's who. But yeah, the blue gremlin with headset is a surprising exclusion to me. We've gotten so many different lemons over the years, and a lot of different variants of said lemons, and so many minor ones that you can't even spot in the movie, like Don Crumlin and Petrov Trunkov. Blue Gremlin with headset would have been a perfect inclusion for the 2017 London Chase series, instead of, say, Don Crumlin, who, again, I don't even know if that guy's in the movie anywhere, if I'm being honest. And Blue Gremlin with headset had a speaking line. That's got to give him some sort of priority, right? The guy spoke, he talked, somebody voiced him. But now, still no Blue Gremlin with headset. At spot number 9, we have Shu Todoroki and Lewis Hamilton's Pitties, the final two World Grand Prix pit crew members who have yet to be released. Mattel put a pretty heavy focus on releasing and re-releasing World Grand Prix pit crew members in 2018, 2019, and a bit into 2020, and by the end of that time, the only pit crew members we were still missing were Lewis Hamilton's Pitty and Shu Todoroki's Pitty. Honestly, I've got to commend Mattel for this one. They did a really good job at focusing on these guys. They re-released everyone except Max Schnell's Pitty, and released every pit crew member they hadn't yet, except for Shu and Lewis's Pitties. Unfortunately now, Max Schnell's Pitty is super crazy expensive because he didn't receive that re-release, but that's beyond the point. They did a really good job at re-releasing or releasing nearly every pit crew member. And that's why these two are this low on the list. It's surprising that they haven't been made yet when nearly everyone else has, but I think it'll probably happen at some point pretty soon. The next time that Mattel focuses on re-releasing members of World Grand Prix pit crews, we don't know when that'll be, but hopefully soon, I'm sure that these two will be a priority. It's not like they forgot about them or anything. We know that Lewis Hamilton's Pitty was supposed to come out a few years back, but got cancelled because of the release of Cars 3, and I don't know what the deal with Shu's Pitty is. I don't know if it was ever planned. The picture I've been using on screen here this whole time is his Tomica release. Anyway, like I said, I think these two are inevitable. The next time we get World Grand Prix pit crew members, I'm sure that we will see these two finally get released. At spot number 8, we have literally anybody from Mater Private Eye. I felt like this was a necessary inclusion because it's an entire Cars tune with 0 diecast releases from it. But I put it this low on the list because I think at this point we're all used to the fact that we'll never get diecasts released from Mater Private Eye. It would definitely be higher up on the list if I made this back when the short first came out, but I think at this point we're all used to the fact that, yeah, we're probably never going to get any. And I think that all boils down to the fact that the short is in black and white, and Mattel probably doesn't know if they should release the diecasts also in grayscale or if they should release them in color. It's a pretty interesting question, right? Would you do these in black and white since the entire short is in black and white? Or do you do them in color since the characters should be in color because they would be, right? The black and white is just a stylistic choice. It's not what the characters actually look like, but it's how we see them, and also it's Mater's story, so yeah, you get the point. You could go on like this for quite a while. It's a pretty difficult question to answer, and it seems Mattel just decided not to answer it by never making anything from this short. Well, aside from a mini racer of Lieutenant Lightning McQueen, who for the record is in color. His siren is painted red, but that one's easy. That car is already black and white because it's a police car. For the record, the Disney store who did make Mater Private Eye cars did them in black and white. But let me know in the comments, if you guys wanted Mater Private Eye cars to be released, if you were in charge, would you make them in color or would you make them in black and white? I think it's a pretty interesting argument. At spot number 7, we have the tuners with tar stains. These are 4 cars that I remember a lot of people asking for a few years ago, but not as much nowadays. These seem like another case where I think everyone sort of settled with the fact that we probably aren't going to get these cars, at least not anytime soon. But I'm a bit more surprised by the fact that we haven't gotten these guys compared to some of the other cars on this list, because Mattel created the perfect opportunity to make these cars. That being the Sheriff's Impound Lot series back in 2016, which was based off of the scene where they appeared, and even included a re-release of Bessie. But since they can't re-release the impound versions of the tuners because they were all chases, Mattel just re-released the normal versions of them and called it a day. This would have been the perfect opportunity to release the tuners with tar stains, but they just decided to, once again, release the same old variants of the tuners. And I think that's a shame, especially because, like I said, this is an opportunity they created. They created the Sheriff's Impound Lot series. They literally created a series based off of the scene where the tuners get tar on them and didn't make the tuners with tar. It makes the series seem completely pointless. They could have just thrown Bessie in the Radiator Springs series, or even have thrown the tuners into the Radiator Springs series and just called it a day, but no. They made them their own special series where it would be a perfect place to release new variants of them, and then just didn't make the variants. Real missed opportunity, in my opinion. At spot number 6, we have Silver Rip Clutch Gonski. Rip Clutch Gonski was originally supposed to die in Cars 2, which is why he didn't have much merchandise for himself released until 2013. He wasn't a part of the original Cars 2 diecast line. He didn't come out until the World Grand Prix series in 2013. That year, he was also lucky enough to get a metallic release, but unfortunately, his silver release was cancelled, despite the fact that every other World Grand Prix racer got a silver release. Kind of strange, because not every racer got a metallic release, but Rip did, and he didn't get a silver release, which every other car got. Rip then had another chance to get released in 2015 when they brought the silver racers back, but for whatever reason, they chose not to make him. Obviously here, they were just choosing to re-release what they'd already made before, but they could have been nice and thrown in Rip. They've done that sort of thing all the time in the Cars diecast line, where they'll re-release some cars and throw in one new one that people wanted to see, but nope. Then 2020 came around with the Silver Collection. The Silver Collection featured silver versions of racers from all 3 Cars movies, and the Silver Collection versions of World Grand Prix racers are actually different than their Silver Racer variants, with different colored wheels than the Silver Racers, and Raul even has less silver on him, ironic for the Silver Collection release. It was so disappointing to see that we'd be getting new silver variants of Jeff Gorvette and Raul Cerul instead of getting a silver Rip Clutch Gonski in 2020. Yeah, he wouldn't have been exactly the same as the other silver racers. He would have been a silver collection car. He would have had those little differences, like the different colored wheels, but at the end of the day, we still had a perfect chance to get a silver Rip Clutch Gonski released, and we still didn't. Mattel has missed 2 chances, 3 if you want to count the original line of Silver Racers, to release a Silver Rip, and it really is a shame. At spot number 5, we have Matador Lightning McQueen from El Matador. The fact that this wasn't released alongside the other El Matador releases is something that I will never understand. In fact, another thing I'll never understand is the fact that we barely got any El Matador releases. Only El Matador, Chewy the Bulldozer, and Padre were released. That's right, Padre, the priest that says a little prayer when all the cars think that Mater's dead. It's strange that we've gotten so few releases from El Matador, and it was also strange that they didn't re-release any of them when they brought the Cars Toon line back as Walmart exclusives in the mid-2010s, especially because El Matador wasn't even released in the US. The fact that we never got Matador Lightning McQueen back then, and never got any El Matador cars when they were re-releasing Cars Toon cars, is just really weird, and it's so annoying to have El Matador but not Matador McQueen when every other Cars Toon has released both its Lightning and Mater variants, except for Mater Private Eye, which we already discussed here, and Unidentified Flying Mater, where McQueen and Mater are both in their normal paint jobs, so technically we do have those, but you get the point. At spot number 4, we have Trev the Train, who, despite having barely been in the first Cars movie, is an iconic character who has gotten several pieces of her own merchandise, like a whole Geotrack set to herself, and of course the iconic Mini Adventures Trev carrying case, which I've used as a Trev substitute in my collection for well over a decade at this point. We know that a metal diecast of Trev was planned to be made at one point. She was shown off at an exhibit with a bunch of other canceled cars. It seems she would have been a 2010 release, but unfortunately she wasn't made, probably because there simply isn't really a good way to release her. She's a very large vehicle, a whole lot of metal also, she wouldn't be able to fit into your standard Cars diecast box. But also at that exhibit alongside Trev were the Convoy brothers, who were also seen as too big to be released, but then they made them a convention exclusive at the 2013 D23. Then at the 2015 D23, they made Big Al, who's an even larger car. Unfortunately, we haven't gotten any 155 scale Cars convention exclusives from D23 since, but if we kept on getting them, Trev would have been a perfect convention exclusive release. Heck, I think she's probably smaller than Big Al was anyway, as long as they just make her front car like what it seems they were going to do according to the canceled prototype. Beyond this, though, I think it's odd that we don't have a plastic 155 scale compatible Trev. Other characters who are larger vehicles who don't have diecasts of their own, like Sidley and Stephenson, had playset variants, car carriers, things that are in scale with the 155 scale diecast line, but were just plastic sets. Heck, even the dinosaurs from Cars on the Road, the Tyrannosaurus Rex car, is getting a plastic release because it's too big to be a regular diecast. They're making it into sort of a bigger playset character. I would love to see that for Trev, and it's really a shame that we still haven't gotten that. Not counting the Mini Adventures carrying case, which isn't really in scale. At spot number 3, we have 4 cars. Lightning McQueen with headset, Fabulous Lightning McQueen with headset, Smokey with headset, and The King with headset. The fact that we haven't gotten these variants of major Cars characters and their crew chief forms from Cars 3 is something that I still just don't understand. Cars 3 came out 5 years ago now, and it's so weird to be 5 years out and still not have these major character variants from the movie. Lightning putting on a headset and starting to mentor crews is a very pivotal moment in the movie. And Fabulous McQueen with headset would be a perfect diecast release to tell stories that take place after Cars 3. And Smokey and the King just both deserve to have headset variants because they appeared in the movie for a decent amount of time. The King's was more of a cameo, definitely the King with a headset, but still, he deserves his headset variant, and Smokey especially does. He wears it for quite a while. It's so odd that we haven't gotten any of these 4 released. And while I think doing a Cars 3 McQueen and Smokey are definitely more important than a Fabulous McQueen and the King, I still think all 4 of these are very necessary diecasts, and it's so weird to not have any of these 4. Now we know that Smokey with headset and stand was canceled. It's pretty hard to find images of it, but if I did find an image, then that's what you've been seeing on the screen this whole time. But very early rumor lists for Cars 3 diecasts mentioned a Lightning McQueen with headset, although we don't know if it was set to be Cars 3 McQueen or Fabulous McQueen. The rumor list called it Hero Lightning McQueen, and I believe that's meant to refer to Lightning's main look from the movie, which would be his Cars 3 design, but there's no confirmation on that. The fact that we had the Florida 500 series for so many years, and they never released Smokey, Lightning, or Fabulous McQueen with headset, just makes the Florida 500 series feel like sort of a waste to me, especially because we got very few new releases in that. You know who we did get, though? We got Sterling with headset. Sterling with headset, but not any of these other cars. Really odd choice there. At spot number 2, we have Thomasville Cruz Ramirez, or Cruz Ramirez dressed as Jackson Storm, or Costume Girl Cruz, or whatever you want to call her. This car was supposed to be released back in 2018, but is another entry on this list to have been canceled. And it's really strange that they haven't made her since that cancellation. Of course, Cars diecasts get uncanceled all the time, and it's just weird to see such a prominent variant of Cruz from the movie still not be released. We have so many Cruz Ramirez diecast variants at this point. It's kind of strange to think about the fact that one of the most significant variants of her in the movie still hasn't been made. It's honestly kind of funny to me. Here we are getting track damage Cruz and all of these other different, more obscure versions of Cruz, and we still don't have this one, which is pretty significant. It's the first time Cruz is modified in the movie, and it's a really unique look. Even with all of the similar looking Cruz diecasts, this Cruz really stands out. She has Jackson Storm decals duct taped onto her. It's a really interesting variant, a variant that received 2 mini racers back in 2018, the year that we were clearly supposed to get this Cruz, but of course she was canceled. Hopefully we'll see her someday soon. It's really the last major Cruz variant that we're missing. At spot number 1, we have race-damaged Lightning McQueen. A bunch of the cars on this list that I've talked about are ones that we knew were planned to be made at one point. Quite a few of the Cars 3 cars that I've talked about here were even ones that we knew were set to be released at one point and just were scrapped or canceled or whatever. But this is a car that I don't know if we ever knew that it was planned. I don't know if it ever was planned. Despite Lightning McQueen's crash being really a very pivotal moment in Cars 3 and a very important part of the marketing, all of the very early Cars 3 marketing was all about Lightning's crash, and from this moment, everything will change and all that. So, it is kind of odd that we never got a diecast of it. I know a lot of fans, myself included, have made their own custom versions, but still, that doesn't beat having the actual thing. And while it is very surprising that this very important version of McQueen hasn't been made, and it would be so cool, I'm sure a lot of people, collectors and kids alike, would really like it, I think the reason why it's not been made, and probably never will be made, is pretty simple. All of the other cars I've talked about here today are ones that I think have a shot being made, except the Mater Private Eye guys. I'm sorry, at this point, we're never getting those. Sorry, Big D, you'll never make your diecast debut. All jokes aside, if they wanted to make this McQueen accurate, there are 2 things in the way. Up first, his spoiler has to be ripping off, and I don't know how they would pull that off. But that's not as important as my other point. His eyes would have to be closed. They're closed the entire time he's crashing. Think about the other race-damaged diecasts that we've gotten before. Chuck Armstrong, Mood Springs, is perfectly fine after his crash and is seen making a joke. That's what his diecast is based off of. The King is perfectly fine after his crash and is triumphantly pushed to the finish line by Lightning. But we don't see Lightning in his damaged form open his eyes and make a funny joke or say something inspirational afterwards. After that, all the cars go and gather around McQueen, and then we cut to a few months later in Radiator Springs when Lightning's in his primer form. If they made a race-damaged Lightning McQueen, they would have to make his eyes closed, and I think that's the reason why he's not being made. Because under different context, he looks like a dead Lightning McQueen. It's as simple as that. All of the other damaged racers we've gotten are shown perfectly fine afterwards, even in their damaged form, but not Lightning. And that's why I think we've never gotten him, and I also think that plays into why we've never gotten a damaged Doc Hudson. We were supposed to get a damaged Doc Diecast back in 2010, and yeah, his eyes are open after he crashes in both Cars 1 and 3, but he doesn't look very alive. We know, of course, that these characters all go on to be perfectly fine afterwards, but it's the implication of the fact that the toy may look like a dead version of the character that I feel is the reason as to why we'll probably never get this Lightning McQueen. Does Mattel really want to sell a product that looks like a Lightning McQueen who's been brutally beaten up and kinda looks like he may not be alive? I don't know. I don't think that would fly. But there we have it. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching this video. Let me know what cars you're surprised haven't been released yet down in the comments. I'd love to do a part 2, maybe including some of your suggestions. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye now.